Hi, I'm Jamal Papagat. I'm an Urgot and AP tank Vladimir main. So, this game started out with a very unique, actually not so unique, just unfortunate series of events. I was able to claim top lane. Got it. Our jungler, however, also wanted top lane. And our support wanted jungle. So, naturally, this caused a rift between the two, and sprouted a lot of conflict throughout the majority of the game. They were kind of just yakking off toward each other for the most part, which is somewhat detrimental to our success as a team. You know, that's always bad when the jungler and support are questioning the Urgot pick, and then they themselves, between each other, are talking about their own inconsistencies, how each is complete and utter trash, but we're not here to talk about that. That's a subject for another day. This is the Urgot versus Vladimir matchup. Now, the enemy team had a Jace, and Urgot, I found, completely destroys Jace 9 times out of 10. Especially in the current patch. It's just such a fun matchup. But as it turned out, Swain was quite opposed to the prospect of switching, so I ended up against a Vladimir, which really isn't too bad of a matchup for Urgot. So as you noticed, probably, I started with a crystalline flask. I recalled at 125 or somewhere around there to pick up another mana pot, and walked up to the lane, didn't miss anything. So I'm gonna start with something fairly passive, because Vladimir's level 1 is actually stronger than Urgot's. I'm running 19 armor penetration in runes, so my AD is just pretty low. It's 57. If I started Doran's Blade and like 80 marks, it would be 70. But it's a personal choice. It's between ease of CS and, well, see, if you start with armor penetration quints, you deal just about the same amount of damage, if not more, with your spells early on to enemies as with your total AD. I mean, sorry, your base AD runes. That's because Urgot's Q, his Acid Hunter, scales off of total AD rather than bonus AD, which is the way most abilities scale. As you can see here, I hit level 3 before Vladimir. I pushed it up, and that's really vital, because if Vladimir pushes you up, you're gonna have a really bad time because he can continuously sustain. But if he's forced to focus on CS under the tower, yeah, he's gonna have a bad time. So back to the armor penetration marks and quintessences. So those, comparably, are as strong as AD marks and quintessences in the early game against enemies, and scale much better than their counterparts into the mid and late game, especially the late game. Now, you recall that Swain was, he really wanted to face Jace in mid lane. Unfortunately, there were some missteps, and Swain, well, he died, and that's bad. That's going to start a series of events that'll just cascade almost off control. See, with Jace up a kill, he's got a tier 2 longswords, and Pantheon can pressure mid lane, because once Swain has a level disadvantage, he is free reign to ganks. He can't do it. Normally Swain's a strong 2v1er, but when he's behind, that's likely not going to happen. So he has to play very passively and be wary of Pantheon ganks. Now, the build against the Vladimir, normally if I get the chance, like say if I'm in lane for a long time, I'll buy a brutalizer first thing so that I can utterly destroy him as soon as I get to lane, and that works out very well. But if you can't get that much damage early on, then starting with a tier is good protocol. Just pick it up and then play passively, because once you reach this point, around 6 minutes in, levels 5 through 9, Vladimir is noticeably strong. He's perhaps on equal grounds with Urgot. Vladimir is one of those strong harassment champions these days, and he's often picked to counter a lot of top laners. So it's a bit of a challenge to continue to exert my control. I'm going to try and harass Vladimir down. That's what all my mana's for, and to build up into the mid-late game. But Vladimir has a ton of sustain, so it's going to be very difficult. So eventually I'm probably just going to decide, after forcing him away from the minions, making him lose some CS, to just hold on to my mana in case something bad happens. So Swain was forced out. That's kind of unfortunate. That puts some farm onto Vi, which she does become sort of a secondary carry. Although Jace almost kills her. That's unfortunate. Now this lane, you know, we hit level 6. No junglers are ganking. It's when you're not building the Urgot immediately with some damage, it's pretty chill. You just CS. You're kind of on equal footing. Vladimir has about the same gold value items. Eventually I'll be purchasing, be pretty heavy on that. And Pantheon comes up. Thankfully, Ghost and Flash, nothing's gonna happen. I'm pretty safe. So let's just let it play out. Eventually, I'm going to see. Okay. So now Vladimir, he has his TP back up, and he wants to push it up. Maybe roam around the map. Maybe get some wards. And I'm kind of low on mana. I have 2 charges of Crystalline Flask left, but I don't want to stay in lane long enough to reach 0 mana after I've gone through those. So I'm going to push up the wave as fast as I can, and then recall. I've also hit that point where I can probably pick up a Brutalizer, and that's going to be a huge power spike for me. So something's happening over here. Oh my gosh! Ah, Vi was soloing Dragon. Got it down to 200 HP and then whoopa. That's... See, I feel like Vi was kind of desperate, especially in the very beginning of this game. And by the way, I succeeded in pushing up the wave, thankfully. But Janna was talking all about how she should have ganked bot lane, and she should have done this and that, and she's a terrible jungler, and you should have let me jungle. And then Vi is just responding in kind, of course, because that's what people do. It's an unfortunate cycle. But anyway, she probably wanted to prove something, and that didn't turn out so well. So I got my Brutalizer, and this point, this is where I can go offensive on Vladimir. I want to look for a kill. So I'm going to try and open things up. I have a ton of potions that'll make up for my lack of sustain in Doran's Blades and stuff. It turns out I missed that Noxine Corrosive Charge, so it's just safe farming for me. But we get a good break. After Ezreal gets 2 kills, Vi is actually able to turn things around in bot lane. So that's a major plus. Now, Vladimir was CSing rather well as well. He got that Seeker's Arm Guard, Hextech Revolver. He is very well farmed up, considering being up against an Urgot. I got an early lead on him, and if I had gone for, say, a Dorn's Blade and a Longsword, perhaps with a Vigank, I might have been able to deal with that, but well, I might have been able to pick up a kill on Vladimir. Didn't quite happen, especially because we wanted to focus on mid lane this game. And that's kind of just an awkward drive-by. See, at this point, Swain is at 0-2, and, well, Jace is getting pretty fed. So, with the tower down, he can't 1v1 Jace anymore. That's just... no. And so I tell Swain, hey, let's switch. And, man, I see Jace coming through the ward just right over here, maybe about 20 seconds ago, or 10 seconds. And I predict, at this point, I know that Jace is going top, but this is one of my major pitfalls. I didn't go top. If I had gone in time to help Swain, we totally could have turned that around. But, alas. Yet another drop in the bucket, and we're on pretty bad terms. It's not going so well. So we gotta find some sort of way to do this. Now, I accidentally pressed Ghost here, but it turns out to be a great thing. Vladimir sees me running in, and I try to ult him. He pulls away, so if he hadn't flashed away, I would have flash ulted him. That would have gotten him. And so, you know, Ghost for flash, that's a really good trade. Ghost is on this tiny cooldown. That's it. 210 seconds. A little over 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Flash? 6 minutes. So with Vladimir's flash down, we can just stay in top lane and kill him. His pool, while it does provide him some immunity, it also takes away his health. And so from there, it's just a slow death. Now with that, we can get the ball rolling. At the same time, Vi picked up some more great kills fairly recently, but at the same time, I say that a lot, Swain died again. With Jenna staying here, we can finish the turret. I'm on pretty low mana, so I'm sort of panicking here. I don't want to fight Vladimir, especially when they might have Pantheon support. We don't know where he is. Turns out he's in bot lane, so that's no problem. Whenever I recall, I like to go at least one bush further than the enemy would generally expect. That's a great way of surviving, because sometimes people will just check the first bush and then, okay, I guess they're not there. But yet you're in the second bush. Now here, I upgraded my tier into a Mura mana. I'm kinda close to getting that bonus mana. I want to have the Mura mana completely upgraded for the next dragon fight, and it's clear here that we're not gonna get this dragon. That's, you know, that sort of stuff shouldn't be happening. I mean, we knew their position, we knew that dragon was down, it had just come up, so it was clear that the enemy team would be all over that. But at the same time, Vi had to recall. I was over here. I was moving on over to support, but I was too far away still. And the rest of the team wasn't there to support Jenna. And we were in no position to contest. So in part, it was a communication deficit, and at the same time, it was a complete error on Jenna's part. She shouldn't have been there. Now, it's Vi and I, and we're looking to do something. We group up in mid lane. We can't let this game run away from us. So, Pantheon ults in. They didn't know where Vi was. I ulted Jace immediately so that I gained a ton of armor, magic resistance. Pantheon wasn't able to stun or do anything to anyone, so it was kind of a lost cause for them. And with that kill, we can move on forward. We can get the tower, and then they seek to fight. They're ahead. That makes some sense, and they do kill Vi. So they push us out here. It's another little while before my Mer mana is upgraded. Since the dragon, I've gotten about 50 mana on it. I'll probably have it upgraded by about 18, 30, or 19 minutes. The good news is, I've got both summoner spells, and I've got another kill. So I want to stay. I've got a ton of mana. And how much gold do I have? 1,300. Let's see if I can make something happen. So, this... yeah, it's another misstep. I actually didn't know that Thresh's hole could pull someone over a wall like that. That was really new to me. But, unfortunately, had I hit one more of those acid hunters, I would have been able to kill Thresh. In any case, this game is running away. The enemy team has a lot of sort of squishy people. No one is really building the armor yet. Like Vladimir, he's building some armor, and that is actually a good target for Last Whisper. But the rest of them, you know, they're not really there. And I want to focus everyone around Vladimir because he really isn't much of a threat right now. So what I did was I got Yomu's Ghostblade. Now this is an extra tool of mobility. I don't want to tank here, but I know that I'm going to have to get into some pretty tough situations. So I picked up Yomu's Ghostblade. It'll help me with my mobility, it'll allow me to pick one person off, and then move right on back to the team. And then move on to everybody else. And with Ghost I can just push down. Ezreal cannot escape under any circumstances, and from this it's a pickup of 3 kills. I don't believe Dragon's up soon, but we may be able to get this bot lane tower. Now again, the Yomu's Ghostblade. The idea behind it is, well, see, it gives 20 armor penetration, right? Okay. Jace has 60. So that takes him down to 40 armor penetration, 42, and then I have a ton more from runes and a little from masteries, and it's almost true damage. In the very early game, when you're ahead, Yomu's Ghostblade is actually a pretty good pickup, but the primary reasoning behind it is that the carries that I'm focusing are all squishy. Jace, he's squishy. I want to Q, auto attack, Q, auto attack, and then kill him. I want to kill him even if I miss every single one of my abilities. And to do that, I pick up Yomu's Ghostblade. If I wanted to take someone out of the fight, someone who I know might try to 1v1 me, Yomu's Ghostblade. Now, Swain was really demoralized still. I mean, he's 0-7, he was 0-6 before that. He overextended in mid lane and died. That's tough. So now we're put on the defensive. Vladimir is split pushing top, so I feel like I'm forced into the top lane, but Vi's going as well. So we're kind of iffy. Do we go defend mid lane? Do we go top? Jenna dies. That sucks. They don't have a minion wave though for a little while. It's coming up though. So Vladimir gets away. I'm finishing clearing up the wave and then pulled away. And thankfully our Swain and Caitlyn were able to clear the minion wave without much damage dealt on the turret. And at the same time we have a fairly large wave in bot lane, and Dragon's coming out very soon. We were able to do quite a bit of damage to Thresh, so we're almost forcing them out. and both teams want dragon, so they're going to try something funny. They all group up against the Swain. I mean, they take him out pretty fast, and it's great for Vladimir. But with Yoma's Ghostblade, I'm able to run away and survive. And then I've got a ton of damage. I ult Ezreal. He gets away. But I've also got Muramana in this fight, and so my Qs were chunky. They were constant critical hits that could not be avoided. Well, given that they're skill shots, they could, and many of them missed actually, but they were really strong in that fight. And this is the kind of mid-game that Urgot has, especially when he's ahead. When he's behind though, it's actually pretty similar. Just as long as he gets that Muramana, it's a crazy amount of damage. And notice I also picked up a Glacial Shroud and Ninja Tabi. The only major threats on the enemy team are AD. You've got Pantheon, Ezreal, Jace. So I'm going to upgrade that quickly into a Frozen Heart. And that brings me up to full CDR. With the Glacial Shroud, I had about 30–33% CDR depending on my level, because I run 5% flat CDR in glyphs and 5% scaling CDR in glyphs. That opens up for multiple different builds, particularly say Ionian Boots into Warmogs. Whoa. Oh, okay, alright. So alright. I went down a tangent. I'll return to that later. But see, I saw here, there were Pantheon and Jace were both right over here. I saw Pantheon ult in here, and we had Swain in bot lane. Ezreal was coming up, so it was kind of 4v4, but as long as they were up against these three, they could definitely pull them out. Pull out and win. I get an auto attack off on Pantheon, he's pretty low, and the major part of this is I keep the fed Jace out of the fight. Jace has just a little less gold than I, and the same amount of kills, but with Yoma's Ghostblade and Muramana, he just melts, and with Frozen Heart, he can't do any damage to me. So then the rest of my team is able to clean up, because Jace, Thresh was already low, and Vi's doing pretty well now at the same time. Oh, oof. And Ezreal, that was dirty. But the good news from that exchange, we get Baron. And, you know, if I had a ward right over there, since I had my ultimate, I probably would have ulted Thresh right over the wall, and then he didn't have flash, so he'd be dead, and if I was in a precarious position, I would have been able to flash over or just walk out. And that's a great trick for mid-game and late-game pickoffs. Next up, I want to get my Last Whisper. It's pretty much essential at this point. Enemies are picking up armor. I mean, Ezreal has 125, Pantheon, quite a bit, and this guy, he's going to be upgrading into Zhonya's pretty soon, so that's going to be something tough. A lot to chew through. And the Last Whisper, that'll do it. Black Cleaver isn't really a great pick in this game, because I am not moving around like with my team necessarily. I'm moving around on the sidelines, and I'm picking people off in between. I'm picking off Ezreal, picking off Jace, and leaving the kind of dirty work with Vladimir and Thresh and Pantheon to my team. So at this point, you know, we have Baron. There are mini waves pushing up in bot and top lane, so clearly the enemy team thinks that we are probably going to defend. They were right over here. They wanted to group up to defend, since, you know, we do have Baron, but they were too late. It's just, watch the enemy movements, and like that Ezreal, he E'd away, and he flashed as well, but if you ult immediately, if you're very decisive on those ultimates, you can accomplish great things. With Ezreal down, we're able to just push in. Go for it. Vladimir, Swain flashes in, he gets the root on multiple people, and then we dive. I pop Yoma's Ghostblade, Jace disappears into nothing. You know, crits are pretty powerful. I mean, Urgot's range his range is pretty low, 450, but when you're right next to people, that doesn't matter very much. Now, at this point, I've got my last whisper. And it's a great time. I'm completely fed. That's a sharp contrast to what was happening before. Swain, he was having a bad time, and now he's okay. He's got his rod, it's scaled up. He's got his Zhonya's, he can survive. And Caitlyn and Jenna as well. They started out pretty far behind, but with good fights and a ton of damage, especially on Urgot and Vi's ends, we were able to pick it up. At the same time, we had some pretty good objective control. Despite, say, Janna and Swain dying here and there, that's always tough to work around. And you gotta understand that people are going to have, well, when people are having a bad time, when they die and then die again and then they're camped and then there's nothing they can do, especially when they're on champions like Swain who have no escapes, you feel kind of hopeless. And so you have to understand that they are probably going to make some mistakes. It's just mindset that they're in at the time, and it's universal to all of us. Oh, most of us at least. So over here, I completely zoned the rest of the enemy team. Jace and Ezreal wanted to join that fight that Vladimir was leading, and by picking off Thresh, I was able to weave my way in over to this line and keep the rest of them away from my squishy AD carry. Now I popped Ghost here because I wanted Vladimir. Didn't get him, but that's okay. So from here, it's just a hard push. Vladimir is forced to top lane, so even though it's 4v5, we feel pretty safe. That damage. It just feels so great. See those little chunks? It's a slow, guaranteed destruction. I'm just on the back line, popping those out, missing a few spells, while Caitlyn and I go ham on the other end. But we force them in. Dive it. And in this situation, Frozen Heart was incredible. But there are many other situations in which, say, Iceborne Gauntlet or Warmog's Armor are also really good. And I detail that further in my guide. Urgot, let's see, Top Got. Probably the 5 point, I gotta update it pretty soon. It's updated to, I believe, 5.1, but soon I'll be updating it further, and I'm also going to be releasing the Urgot Season 5 guide pretty soon. So keep a lookout on that. And at the same time, Urgot is receiving a buff. Riot has talked about buffing Terra Capacitor, his shield, so that it has a mana scaling. Now previously I've kind of shunned that idea because it sounds completely overpowered, but I'm willing to open up to it, and I mean, if it's going to be there, I'm really happy about that. See, there are a lot of things, small buffs, that could put Urgot over the edge, and tying his shield to mana I feel like that could potentially be one of them. It's just so much tankiness off of something that he's already incredible at. At the same time, last thing I want to talk about, Righteous Glory build. Try it out. I'm currently going through testing stages of picking up a Righteous Glory as a first item against teams, well, actually just in very organized team compositions, especially with my ranked team. And that has worked out to much success for me. And like, it's generally Righteous Glory, Ionian Boots, and maybe Glacial Shroud tier at some point in there. If I want to get a Murder Mana by the mid to late game, that'll give me a strong power spike. And then you have so much mana in the backlog. So anyway, all that, those are subjects for another time, another video. And so, to everyone, thanks for watching. It's been great. And Urgot buffs coming up. We'll probably be getting a lot of new Urgot players. Looking forward to that. Remember to check out my guide for more information, and have a good one.